Something that bugged me for a long time is that there isn't this one type of company culture that works best. We often try to point to an agile culture is this culture, lay low culture model. And when we really look at it though, and when you look inside companies, there's many different types of cultures. You've got companies like Amazon, which are much more heavy in writing, much more hierarchical, much more process driven, and they're super effective as a company. Then you've got other companies on the other end of the spectrum, which is much less about documentation, much more about collaboration, and much more about agency and empowerment in the organization. And they also work very effectively. And for a long time, I've had a hard time about it because it's not about saying one company culture is right and one company culture is wrong. It's really that there's many different types of cultures and they can all be effective. But then I started really thinking about, well, what makes it so effective? And this is probably the thing that's bugged me for a while. And I kind of had a major breakthrough the other week when I was watching John Cutler on Lenny's podcast. So thank you, John, for this. And thank you, Lenny, for facilitating it. But John really talked about coherence, this notion that your company culture needs to be coherent with how you view the world and your own personal values and all those types of things.
It's the fabric that creates coherence, like coherent around what? If culture is what we're doing, is what we're acting, and the way we act is sort of a function of some of the belief systems and the culture and the value systems that we have.
Again, culture is not about putting a plaque on the wall in the lobby and having fancy words on the website. It's actually about the things you say, the things you do, how you behave, the social norms you create in your company, even the things you reward and the things that you ignore and the things that you punish. All of those things, all of them make up this big matrix of company culture. And as soon as there's dissonance between all of them, your company culture becomes ineffective. And this is John's point about coherence, is that it's about that fabric of culture, and whether there's coherence in that fabric is what makes the culture effective.
It's like, what do you believe in and what do the people around you believe in? And how can you be a coherent leader? And you know what? You can nudge yourself a little bit away from your happy place, but you're not going to go super far. You're not going to go from like a process driven meritocratic XYZ person all the way to like I'm going to start a collectivist company where everything is sort of a consensus decision to do that. You're not going to do that.
And as a result, we see this all the time. We see companies trying to copy frameworks and processes and things from other company cultures, and it doesn't work because you don't have coherence with that thing, that framework, that tool, and your culture. Take the Spotify model, for example, that we always heavily criticize, but it's a perfect example of this. You don't have Spotify's culture. So taking their model and then applying it, taking their ways of working and processes and tools and applying it will not have coherence in your organization. If your leaders don't believe in the things that model projects, things like decentralized decision-making and aligned autonomy, then you're going to have a hard time making that model work and you're not going to have an effective company culture. You're just going to have friction points and dissonance inside your company. Now, I'm no different than I think most people, and most people would have a preference for a certain type of culture over another one. I, for one, like a more collaborative culture, one that's more team-centric, one that's more empowering, and more, let's, whiteboard it out together. But I know that that's my own personal preference. And as a result, I will avoid company cultures where that doesn't align with me. But equally, I know there's people who are the opposite, and they will seek out company cultures that align to them. And then when you have people that align to your values as a leader and the fabric of culture in the organization, that's when we have coherence. And then as a result of that, we become an effective unit as a company. And that is what makes it effective, less the actual values itself, as I mentioned. So whilst I still believe that there's certain values that will be better than other values, I think at its core and as its fundamental, coherence is the most important thing when building a company culture. So for all those change agents out there and all those leaders who are thinking about company culture, for a second, ignore what all the literature and everybody else on this platform and other platforms are prancing on about, and start with yourself. It's more important at the end of the day for your company culture to have coherence between what you believe and what the masses inside the company believe, so you can create those social norms and that fabric of culture, and less about the content in itself. I'd love to hear your thoughts about company culture. I've thought about this a lot. I'm sure if you speak to me again in another 12 months time, my thinking around this would have evolved and changed. So please throw it down in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to further my view and strengthen it in one way or another. So let me know. And again, if you like this format, again, let me know in the comments. I'll keep churning it out as long as people find it valuable. And if you want to learn more about product and business, check out productpathways.com. We're building out several deep dive courses on topics just like this one. Be sure to upvote topics that haven't launched yet inside our public roadmap that you want to see dropped. And thanks for watching. I'll see you at the next one.